Name is Wayne Kahn. I'm actually from Washington, D.C., here visiting in New Orleans, working on a project called Zydeco by Birth, which is the story of the Carriere family, Carriere family of Southwest Louisiana, one of the most important of the major music families. And we have a big event coming up at the end of April. That's part of the reason why I'm down here, and we'll get to talk about that.
Sure, yeah. Now you and I, and you said it's been 2 years?
2 summers ago.
Wow, okay. So it's been 2 years, and then initially, maybe you could take us back to that point in time and catch them up if they didn't catch that episode.
I was here in July,
okay,
to help out my stepdaughter's, getting a house ready for a baby, but was also just starting on the journey of trying to make this project come together. And I forget how we connected, but then
that I couldn't tell you. Through social.
There was some reason to connect that I sent you the information that I had at that time.
Yeah.
And your thing is about New Orleans musicians. This is a Louisiana story. I'm not from Louisiana, which took a little bit of, okay, well, there's a reason to talk.
Sure, yeah. It was immediately relevant to me because I serve all Louisiana musicians, but it being a roots music and I guess personal to the state, if that makes sense. Regional sounds too sterile. It's something it's a passion project, and it should mean a lot to people from down here if they understand the gravity of all of this.
The culture.
Sure, and so it was immediately of immediate importance to me, and I was glad that we got to sit and talk. Now, your story about how you came across this is also one you might want to throw in there too, because that was interesting to me.
Yeah, we didn't have video then either. So.
No.
I worked with Roy Carriere. Put out his last 6 CDs from about 1995 to when he died in 2010. Became very close to him. He ends up being best man at our wedding. I was his record label. I wore many hats. Sometimes it was a manager's hat, but I wasn't really his manager. I was always his record label, was his publisher, whatever I could do. Because he always, to me, was the great overlooked in the 90s when it was the Boozoo versus Bo hyped up thing that Rounder was doing. He was the guy on the outside looking in, though Bo learned in his club and he sat in the barnyard and played with Boozoo. So he's always been the cause. At the end of the 90s, 98, 99, there was a man named James Anderson from Colorado that became fascinated with Chubby's story, Grammy-winning Chubby Carriere. And this family story, he brought a film crew to Southwest Louisiana, got first-person interviews with the elders who are all gone now. This 25 years ago. And he was going to do a documentary called Zydeco by Birth. Life knocked him off the rails in succession really hard. He basically disappeared. I was connected to it because we were Roy's publisher, and I was going to help him navigate the world of what's called sync rights, which is that thing that makes publishers' eyes grow big when you marry music to a picture. The royalty thing just totally changes there, and it's like considered hitting the home run. So I was going to help him there, but he disappeared. It took me a few years to find him, but when I did, we reconnected. I was in DC and knew some of what he had gathered was stuff nobody else had ever seen. There's very little video of Bebe Carriere and Calvin Carriere and Goldman Thibodeau and Roy and Chubby, and I knew people in DC, in the Smithsonian and other places, would be interested in what he had. And I told him, I said, hey, is there anybody? I was always trying to connect him with somebody that could help get the project done. But he was, no, this is still mine, Roy died in 2010. He was one of the first people I called, and he says, that shakes me up. I'll be back in touch with you. And then 2 weeks later, he calls me and says, I'm sending you all the material.
What was going through your mind at that time? Because that was such a 180. I mean, I'm sure you don't look a gift horse in the mouth and all of that stuff, but
I always was interested in seeing him get it done.
Sure.
But I had a record label. I didn't know anything about making a documentary.
Gotcha.
I'm like, I was honored that, and we transacted it for $1. He sent me everything, but he mentioned at one point that he trusted me with it and trusted me to have something good happen with it.
Yeah.
And so I get it, and I start asking around, and it's obvious that, yes, people are interested, but they're trying to cherry pick the pieces out of it.
Gotcha.
The video of Bebe playing Blue Runner with his nephew and cousins and son is important culturally, because the song is so important culturally.
Do you recall what they were suggesting to use it for?
They wanted just to access that. Mm-hmm. They had no interest in the story.
Gotcha.
They wanted the pieces that were these important interviews, one-on-ones with the elders,
Gotcha.
First-person stories, and first-person playing, Bebe playing with son. There's no video that exists of it anywhere. But I was determined that I needed to somehow keep it together. Still kept asking around. At the beginning of COVID, which is 2019, Folkways acquires my Right On Rhythm record label.
And that was for them. That was like, I guess, a branch, you would say, of the Smithsonian.
They started taking on what they referred to as orphan labels, and I was one of the first ones.
Okay.
Our Hooli happened right before me, where our Hooli is now part of Smithsonian Folkways.
Okay.
But there's some other select labels that they had started acquiring, labels that were orphaned, they call them. They were out there, they were important in their day. So they acquire, they don't purchase, but I'm okay with that, because it's all of the 15 CDs are there.
They get to the right place.
Folkways, so I figured when they took the label, I turned all of the material over to them, figuring it would be safe. Because their mission statement is, if any exploitation happens of music and generates anything, it finds its way to the family, to the holders of the paper, whoever it is. So that to me was the best place for it.
In addition to the safety factor, what else are they supposed to do to be able to kind of display it to the public or make it accessible?
They are supposed to archive it, to digitize everything. They were, part of what I turned over to Folkways was the entirety of Roy Carriere's publishing catalog. They had the dream of starting their own publishing house, which is good. But the turmoils of government and funding, and then COVID hit.
Right.
They were skeleton staffed, some in the office, very little in the office anymore, but short of money, short of people. They're still there, trying to be a real record label. They have releases happening and they're doing stuff. But they didn't have the resources they're constantly trying to do what they do, but they're constantly short of the resources to make it all happen the way they want.
Sure.
So during COVID, I kept bugging them. To me, the label was important. It documented the DC scene. There's people there like Robert Lighthouse and Nap Turner and Mark Wenner, Nighthawks, a couple of Nighthawks things. But the real jewel in what I turned over was this project, the Carriere family project. And I kept bugging them about it. You've got this culturally important collection of material that it's there, it's yours. You hold the publishing on Roy's music, you've got all of this. But when it comes down to it, they're not a video company. They're a record label.
I was going to ask too, because it's two obviously separate bodies of work, not just in medium, but in content, because you grew up, spend a lot of your years documenting the DC music scene, and this is coming from all the way in Southwest Louisiana.
Right. Well, I connected to Roy. It was funny. He knew me from dance. I'm a Zydeco crazy. I met my wife Zydeco dancing. DC became a very important stop for Southwest Louisiana musicians. It became that one-day drive that wasn't Houston, wasn't all the way on the West Coast in the Bay Area where there's a huge, transplant of Creole, but a large community of dancers took to Louisiana music and dance. And Roy was one of the first people that would come and camp out. He would stay with, stayed in we became his rest stop, and he would use that as his travel out place. But a number of the bands were doing that. There were a number of houses that supported it. So it became a network that started in DC, went to Baltimore, went to New York, went farther north, Philadelphia, and so there was a reason for them to come out and hang out to make all those stops. He recognized me from, if you're familiar with Roy's music at all, if you ain't sweating, you ain't doing the Zydeco. It's a very partnered aerobics is a good way. As vigorous.
I like it. Yeah.
As vigorous as you would like it or not, as close together or not. And I had started recording bands in DC and giving them work tape. And after 2 years of that, I put together a CD. I got one here. I could even pull it out and show it. But called The Blues You'd Hate to Lose. It was all recorded in the clubs around DC. Got great support. Didn't make a lot of money, but I paid the musicians their little pieces. And I saw Roy. I actually picked it up on my way to Jazz Fest in '96. Stopped in Fredericksburg on the way. Picked up my CDs. Landed in New Orleans. I run into Roy at a party, midweek party on a Wednesday that was a traditional greeting or people getting together. And Roy passed through the party. He wasn't playing Fest. He still hadn't played Fest yet. And I ran up to him and said, "Here, Roy, here's who you can find playing in the clubs around DC. All recorded live in the clubs when you're just up there hanging out," because he had hung out DC Blues Society gigs, things like that. And he just says, "Well, you can record me when I come up to DC." And me? Okay, I guess, and because I'm not an engineer, I'm not a sound guy, I just listen. Yeah. And so I was taping in places nobody would tape in, with equipment nobody would tape with, and looking for energy. And so I started taping Roy every time he came up, and that became the Nasty Girls CD, and we were together ever since. Yeah. And, he's, like I said, I've always been on the soapbox for him. He was a last man standing when it came to la-la-based Zydeco. He was the youngster that hung around with the elders, and all the elders were now gone, and he was like the last man standing, still playing that roots of the music. And I couldn't, I tried to get him with the NEH, but ran out of time. He belonged there. He was a teacher. Tried to get him back into Jazz Fest. He had stages in '98. It was his first stage after playing 40 years in music. Wow. The next year, he brought Bebe and Calvin and Goldman back to Jazz Fest, which was Bebe's first ever trip to New Orleans. And gave over half of his stage time to them. And then Jazz Fest never had him back.
Yeah, and it took him 40 years to get there in the first place, so that should tell you something about how open their eyes are.
Well, I've had my issues about that, but got to keep poking at it.
So when you submit everything you have to the Smithsonian Folkways, and it's two separate mediums and it's two separate subjects, what do they do with the music that was on your label? They've
reissued all of it. It's
okay,
all
so they
available.
did what they were supposed to do with that, but you kind of feel like maybe they just didn't know what to do with all of the Carriere project?
It wasn't anything, their energies were pointed in another direction for making being a record label is next to impossible. Yeah. This business is totally, how do you live unless you're a touring musician selling music live? Right. You're not making any money from recordings. Yeah. And trying to exist as a record label is tilting at windmills now. I mean, it's unless you have it all and you control it all, you see nothing. So they had the record label. I kept bugging them about it, about this other material that needed to be, the culture needed to see it, They finally got, I think, tired of hearing from me and said, look, we're not a video company. We'll give it back to you. Technically, it still belongs to us, but we'll give it back to you. We'll see what you can do.
How long was it there?
They got it just before COVID. So that's, 2019.
Yeah.
And in 2022 is when, during COVID, I decide that if I don't make it move, it's just going to sit in a box in the warehouse till somebody opens the box and goes, what the hell's all this?
Yeah.
And they won't know.
Or it gets set down next to a speaker magnet or something, and then that's a wrap.
Yeah, it was all original beta, pro beta recordings, video recordings, and it's all been digitized now.
I was relieved to hear that, man, because when you hit me up about digitizing, I got on Amazon and bought like this little gadget that I could hook in via RCAs, and I figured I was gonna have to learn, you know what I'm saying, to figure out how to do it. And then you said you got to digitize. I was like, good, because that didn't look too promising.
Well,
it's something that you have to do in real time.
It's a real time thing, and I got lucky. By the time I stopped recording live, I had like 300 hours of live DAT tape, and when I got DAT was forever, but it really wasn't. Ones and zeros could start falling off the tape, and I was nearing shelf life.
Oh, wow.
And so there was this, and it's, how do you needed an interface that let you play the DAT tape that would send it digitally or take it and send it to your computer.
Yeah.
And I found one, a musician friend pointed me at this, I forget, it was a Roland piece, a small thing that had digital inputs, so I could do that. And I could wake up in the morning, put a tape in, go to work, come back. I'd have a file in my computer, label it, store it, put another tape in overnight, next morning, basically going through that.
Yeah. And
it took some time, but I got it all at least waveformed.
Beautiful.
It's an archive that's an unexplored archive, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's there. I have a copy of it. I know Folkways has a copy of it, but I can't see anybody spending the time of trying, unless they had looking for a particular artist that they're interested in finding out what they can about the artist. Nobody's ever going to look at it.
Sure.
So,
and that's terrible to think that so many people have wanted it just for, it was a waning interest in just for specific parts and pieces, when really the culmination of all of it is what forms its importance in my eyes. You see what I'm saying? It just seems like there is no cherry to pick. All together when they all form the piece.
St. Landry Parish is ground zero for Zydeco, Creole, Zydeco, Church Point. Well, Church Point sits just across the street from St. Landry Parish, but then there's Lawtell, Opelousas.
Yeah.
All of the music families are there. The Carriers are there. And their history goes back into the Civil War, as people, nearly every family had somebody who played something. And some families had a number of people who played something.
Sure.
And as the instrumentation filled in, first it might have been a little squeeze box accordion or a fiddle, a rub board. And as it began to expand into electrified instruments, that's when it grew out beyond the house dances into clubs. And la-la music became Zydeco. But the family history is there through all of it, and is known, but not given their place in many ways. If Amédée and Dennis McGee, Amédée Ardouin and Dennis McGee are the first ones to record, or recognized as the firsts, and they record in 1928 and are noted for that. And he gets to New York, so they become known. 15, 20 miles down the road in Lawtell, the Carriere brothers are doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get recorded until 1974.
Gotcha.
So there's 50 years of them they're the ones working in the background, the
Yeah.
unknowns. That Bebe becomes a sort of a
Well,
legendary.
just not documented at the time, but still just as talented and as
Then
active.
Dewey Balfa knew they were there, and so in 1972-3, you've got Ron Stanford, who's here on an NEA grant, doing culture things, and Dewey Balfa is introducing him to all these different musicians. There's a book he did, which I've got here, that so he is the first one to actually record them. Then Nick Spitzer appears and records them. And then Chris Strakowitz appears and then records them. So that's all 72, 3, 4 right in there. And the song Blue Runner gets recorded for the first time. But all along in there, fiddlers have been sort of searching out Calvin Carriere and Bebe Carriere, trying to see what they're doing. And because what they were doing was, and I've seen it written in what, when they find them, they're like hearing this thing they haven't heard before. Mm-hmm. It's one of our indigenous musics.
Sure.
And they wanted to learn what they were doing, whether it's Michael Doucette or, there's a whole, you can go through fiddlers of the time. Carriere. Carriere was 10 years younger than Bebe, but Carriere was hanging around Bebe, trying to, follow him. Mm-hmm. So, but Carriere was more of a gregarious, outgoing, became known in a friendly way and got out again.
Sure.
The Carriere brothers, Bebe officially retired, sometime in the 60s and Erast recorded and retired somewheres in there as well. So they just didn't get known, but there was this, those that knew there were these people out there. And so they're there for that history. And then Roy becomes the bridge guy. I always referred to him as that, the bridge between Clifton and Rock'n'Doopsie and Furnace Arsenault and all of those original tier of players to the next generation of players who all learn in his Offshore Lounge Club. In '81, he buys that club, and there's the Thursday night jams become legendary in terms of all the kids who are coming there to learn to play and try to get their stuff together.
Yeah.
First place Gino ever played, probably the first place Beau Jacques ever played. But that was the school. So that's his role in things. He's the one that carried the torch forward.
Yeah.
And it was always sort of on the outside looking in. And when I first started working with him, the question asked was always, what's his relation to Chubby? Because Chubby had gotten out.
Yeah.
And I'd go, Chubby learned at his knee when he was, this big. And, so that, he put him, and I vowed that I would get that changed, and I did get it changed, where Roy became, when he was still unknown outside of the niche in that way, but when they, in 2004, or I can't remember the year, it might have been '04, no, he was already dead, so it had to be 2010, 2011. The first Zydeco Hall of Fame class was Clifton, Chenier, Boozoo, Chavis, Roy, Carriere.
Okay.
And it was the next generation of players that insisted Roy had to be included in that
Beautiful
first trio.
Yeah.
So this April 26th, Big Daddy Roy Carriere's induction into the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame.
Beautiful.
Finally getting his place there, which he should have been there all along. So that's part of the big celebration that we're doing. His sister Laura got in. His son Chubby got in. So now Roy will be in.
Yeah.
And again, it's just 4 generations of the family crossing the stage that day.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. I'm glad to hear how well you've been able to, it's been on shaky ground all along, and I'm sure you were scared to death at times, but I'm glad to hear how well you've been able to keep it together as a cohesive piece, because that to me stresses the importance of it all. It would have been so easy for somebody to just part it out like a vehicle that didn't run anymore, and you never did that.
No.
That's commendable.
And it's been frustrating. Everybody that hears the project goes, wow, great project. Godspeed. Good luck.
Yeah.
But I was sort of handicapped in Louisiana. All of the orgs recognize it as an important story. Where are you from? Washington, D.C. Oh, sorry.
Sure.
We can't be seen giving our money outside of the community, even though it's a community story.
Right.
So that sort of held me back. We're sort of finding our ways around that now. Opelousas and Lafayette Tourism have stepped forward and committed a tiny bit of money to us. But prior to that, we haven't seen that money yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the only is GoFundMe, selling off old music business posters that were 40 years old through eBay. There was one guy in D.C., David Earle, had a record label called Severn Records. He actually, his studio recorded 2 of Roy's CDs. The second one I did with Roy was Twist and Shout, was in one of his studios. He had a new studio. The last CD he did, Living Legend, was recorded in that studio, and he released the CD. We licensed it to him, which became Roy's first ever distributed CD.
Wow.
And he had a foundation. He knew the family story. He knew my role in the story. He stepped forward and gave a small grant in the fall of last year, which allowed us to finally get some equipment, get a few more interviews, and sort of plan towards this event.
Yeah.
But that money came from outside of Louisiana. And that still frustrates me. That Louisiana orgs or companies don't step forward to make sure this thing gets done.
Yeah, and not to name the gentleman you were speaking of, but you were, before we started recording, telling me about someone that is in music business that was kind of had reduced it to a very specified or niche market, I guess you would say, to put it in business terminology. And I felt like even if it appeals to a small few in his eyes, one of the very first things, and that's what I responded to you with, one of the very first things they say in business is to find a niche market and serve it.
Right. Well, what we were talking about there wasn't about this project necessarily.
It was his view. It was his view on it. And I think that view is shared by many.
But it was the view of a particular piece of this, which I feel deserves a hell of a lot more bandwidth than I can give it in a 1-hour show.
Gotcha.
Andrew Carriere, Bebe Carriere's oldest son, split for California in 1970. Wasn't a musician when he left home, but he was left part of the Creole migrations to find work. He landed in the Bay Area out west. He gets out there, other family friends from home, Danny Poulard, for one, is teasing him, you're from a musical family, how come you're not playing music? So he does start playing triangle in the California Cajun Orchestra, sitting in with him, which is, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
Then the teasing continues and says, man, what are you doing playing with that little thing? You need to, your family plays this and you need to be. So he picks up the accordion and starts learning the accordion, and he'd been out there playing ever since.
Yeah.
He's part of the Bay Area roots scene. He's the go-to, much like Goldman Thibodeau was in Lafayette, Lautel, Opelousas, playing the little accordion. He was out there doing that. So we wanted him, there's video of him, you can see him now. One of the videos that just got posted this last week is him sitting next to his father playing Blue Runner, which is video that doesn't, if you go to Zydeco by Birth on the Facebook page, you will find that.
Okay.
But we got him coming east to be part of this show. And I'm sort of setting it up with him. We've got Andrew and Troy, Dickie and Deontay Dwight. I say, Andrew, we want to have you, with a fiddle player so you can do a tribute to your father and uncle, or ass. That's how we'll open the show. Mm-hmm. And then I go, when was the last time, have you ever played in front of your family before? He goes, no. He's 87 years old.
Wow.
And anytime I relate that to people, their reaction is, wow.
Yeah.
That's not just a local little story. That is it reaches out beyond the border
of
the niche, really.
Yeah.
it's an important story. This guy's coming home to play in front of his family. His brothers and sisters are all still alive, who are all excited about getting a chance to see him play on stage.
Yeah.
And that was the story I was talking about. It's shrugged off as just a local.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's bigger than a local to me. It's
Sure.
something that somebody, and anytime you have a story that without exception, 100% of the time, to a person who when you hit the punchline, they go, wow.
Yeah.
Then that needs to be deep dived or needs to be expanded or needs to be told in a bigger, deeper story.
Sure.
And we'll take a piece of it and talk about it in our thing, but it deserves a lot more bandwidth than that.
Not only that, to me it illustrates how easily parts of the story can be obscured or just covered over and kind of buried with the past.
Yeah.
That branch of the family tree would be kind of buried with the past because he's so far away and
Right.
kind of lost touch.
Well, he would still come back and visit, and the video we have of him was due to just timing, luck. When James came to Louisiana to film, Andrew was in town. He got everybody together at Calvin's house.
Yeah.
Has a jam in the living room, has a jam around the kitchen table, has one-on-one interviews. So that's the extent of his playing with the family. Would have been inside a house, but never on a stage.
Yeah.
And that's a wow.
So with this, it sounds like you are still currently adding to this body of work.
Yeah, we still have interviews. We still have to collect money. We still have to get money to pay for the interviews to be done. We have some interviews. We've added a few. There's still others we need to. The interviews will help tell the story of the family.
Yeah.
Because it's early days. There is no documentation. It's house parties. It's when you read about the history of the Cajun and the Zydeco, at one point it was all one thing.
Hey, have you heard about NewOrleansMusicians.com? It's a place where articles, music videos, interviews, and streaming music from Louisiana musicians can be found. Fans can join free. Music business professionals can join free too. And Louisiana musicians can join for free as well. It's also the place where Louisiana bands go to network and get free promotion. We've definitely got plenty, like this band. Check them out.
To some he's a mystery, that man named Araby. If you're going off of what you see, you better check my ancestry.
And the fiddlers could have, been La, could have been Cajun. The fiddlers basically followed Cajun onto that side of the music, and there were fewer Creole fiddlers.
Okay.
Bebe and Calvin were one, Canray Fontenot, Amadei, though he lended more towards the Cajun side of the music. And that split of the musics, I always sort of viewed Cajun and Zydeco, or Cajun and Creole, as two rails of a railroad track that went through the countryside, and one rail was one and one rail was the other, and you would have musicians jumping across the tracks to play with other musicians.
Okay.
Mix the color line.
Yeah.
But you rarely saw the audiences mix the color line.
Okay.
The historical stories of those days aren't pretty often, but the musicians mixed. Music opens the first doors of assimilation.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
It first breaks down those first cultural barriers.
Yeah.
But Blue Runner becomes this iconic song, and Blues of Bebe is another one, becomes an iconic song that the fiddlers know. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows. If you're a fiddler and you don't know it, you go, how come? It's so. That song does come over to the Creole side through the accordion, and also a fiddler. Jeffrey Broussard has picked a fiddle up and he's playing it now.
Okay.
And Cedric Watson, is somebody who works the song. It's just an important song. It sits at that junction when the musics were splitting.
Yeah.
Really, late 30s, early 40s, whenever house dances were la-las. You went to the la-la to do the la-la. to hear some la la.
Yeah.
And trying to tell the story of the la la dances, which that's a huge part of the culture story, is it provides a platform for Creole culture to grow.
Sure.
Because the protocol was you had to be invited to a party. You couldn't just show up.
Mm-hmm.
Had to wear a jacket. Had to have a jacket which we got a woman telling the stories her grandfather related to her about it.
Yeah.
But the waltzes were so important because it's the one place where a guy and a girl could touch and actually communicate, because otherwise they weren't supposed to touch. So that became a important socially for the male and female mix, really, allowing them to interact.
Yeah.
And it goes from the house parties into the churches, into the dance halls, and becomes this niche music, really.
Yeah.
The Zydeco, My Toot Toot is what woke the country up to it. That was the first time the music had gotten out into the fields, and that was what created an interest in the music's, nationwide.
Sure.
So, but it's a story that it's the family story covers the history of the music, and the history of the music is one that is the history of the culture.
Yeah. How long of a span of time do you envision this depicting? When does it start? Let's go there.
It starts with the family, the genealogy study that's being done right now. The parents of Bebe and Aras, I think it's Ben, is the father, who is a musician, who then teaches his kids. But Ben is coming out of the Civil War, but then there's also family before him. That is, the understanding is that there's people who played music, and it's then passed on to the kids.
Sure.
And then Bebe is born in 1908. The Aras is 1900. Mm-hmm. So that's that period of time forward. You come into the 20s, the 30s, there's still house dances, maybe a saloon or two, but very rarely.
Yeah.
Parties, boucheries, which are big pig roasts, social events. And then the la-la dances become somewhat bigger parties, social events, and then it starts working its way into dance halls, and then the trail rides, and bigger dance halls.
Yeah.
So from the story starts being told about sharecropping existence coming out of the Civil War.
Okay. And that would be documented genealogy, and then your video portion picks up when?
There's very little video. There's been, Nick Spitzer did a documentary you can find, which depicts the jure, which was the front porch hand clap, foot stomp, that was, field chants coming out of the fields onto the front porches. And the jure, which is a chant, stomp, clap, sort of a music, feeds the first forms of Zydeco. Mm-hmm. And Clifton Chenier's Zydeco Sans Pas Soleil was a field chant that came out of the field onto the porch into the music that becomes Zydeco. So the 20s, 30s, 40s, the Bebe and Delan, or I guess from what I just read, I have my time a little mixed up. Aras is still playing, Bebe has retired, Calvin has begun playing, Aras's son, but they become the house dance at Slim's Waikiki, house band at Slim's Waikiki for a period of time. So that's part of the tribute that we want to do on the 26th is, Andrew doing the tribute to his father and uncle, which is just the duet, but then we fill in a band behind him and it becomes the Lawtell Playboys, which is bass and guitar and a drummer, which is also a band that there's only a couple of recordings from those 1970s of a band that's listed as the Lawtell Playboys. So then by that point, some video begins to happen, but there's still very little of the family. and we start getting first-person interviews and having snippets of the recordings from 25 years ago, or Roy will play a sample of something, but we just want to capture the history of the family and what's happening socially with the music at the same time too.
Sure.
Roy, in one of the interviews with Roy, he says that him and Delton Broussard, right around 1979 or 80, are the first persons to add the music component to a trail ride. And it worked, it became successful, and everybody started doing it. And they found that there wasn't as much work for them doing it, because all of a sudden there was only so many trail rides and a lot more bands showing up.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. Have you at any point, through your pursuit of means of funding, have you kind of retraced the steps of some of the documentaries that existed before you?
Yeah, I've looked at them, and the general feeling I've gathered is, well, I would rather you find your own thing. Find the new thing. Don't rely on something that's already been done.
Gotcha.
Advice in a way.
Yeah.
Yes, it's there, and it'll get referenced, but that we would use a piece of it. I think we did just post something that was on the Smithsonian Folkways site, which really the only place it was an old YouTube post, and Savoy had a one-on-one interview with Erast. He's talking in French. Mm-hmm. So unless you know Creole French, but we did post it. It's only 30, 40 seconds worth of him talking about playing. So that's one instance where we've got something. If we could find something that maybe wasn't used or had rarely been seen, we might find a place for it if the rights are there.
Yeah.
But trying to find our own thing. Go to the archives looking for pictures. I mean, Ron Stanford has allowed us use of pictures, because he was going all around the scene in 70, 71 too, taking pictures. His material, if I got this right, has just been turned over is being turned over to University of Mississippi Press, or their archive. So it will be there and researchable, just like the University of Louisiana is researchable and usable, where we could go in there looking for pictures that may depict something that is being narrated.
Gotcha.
So the first portion of it is narration. We do want to reenact a house dance, a la-la, do a time period reenactment based on what we know them to be. Sure. Just to give a feel for it.
Yeah.
And just try to find our way through the story.
Yeah. So as far as what you intend to publish, what span of time is that going to cover?
The story, the whole thing.
Just all of it?
As much as we can fit in an hour.
I got you.
We have to tell where it comes from and where it is today.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask, I guess, is because I didn't realize that you were still accruing material.
Yeah. We haven't had money to gather the interviews that weren't gathered 25 years ago.
Gotcha.
Yes, they got Chubby. They didn't get Troy or Dickie Doo. Didn't get Andrew. They did get a short one with Andrew. Didn't get Roy's sister Laura. Didn't get Dwight. And there's a couple of key players that we would like to get. We've talked about maybe Christine Balfa, who got mentored by Calvin. Michael Doucette, who was hanging around in Bebe's house or at Calvin's house because he was trying to glean from people he wanted to glean from. So that's to be determined a little bit.
Yeah.
But we got to cost money to do the interviews. So I've been sort of saving what's left of the grant to be able to make sure that we were able to do this event.
Yeah.
Which will serve as a gathering point. And one of the things that's coming out of it there's Alex Genealogy is his website. He's doing the full Carriere look at the family, and lots of genealogists have talked about what they've found of the Carriere family, but nobody's taken the whole thing and tried to document all of the different places it goes.
Yeah.
So that's part of that weekend is the big open reunion, and there's Carriere's coming out of the woodwork for it.
Sure.
Finding the cousins that
so satisfying for you. That's going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
What aside from the genealogical additions, which are fairly recent, what in your eyes lends credibility to this project in the eyes of others? Because obviously for us it's of social importance and cultural importance, but you know, like you mentioned, like something that I would contribute to that would be you were able to get 1 or 2 grants from people out of state.
Right.
So
A grant.
I mean,
A grant.
Okay, so you were able to get a grant. You said it was a small grant from out of state, but it allowed you to do some more things. But see, in that in my eyes would lend credibility to a project where maybe I didn't bother to check and see what it was. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, some people only have a mind for business and they couldn't care less about the culture.
Right.
Let's face it. But so, I mean, you have certain things that are going for you. What have you seen over this many years, really several years, that you've been trying to do this that has helped to lend some sort of credibility?
The storyline. Everybody who hears the storyline that knows anything about the culture at all knows it's an important story. The state views it as an important story.
That's important.
And to me, it speaks to the story beyond their own family name.
Yeah.
The cultural story, because it is one of our indigenous musics, and it is a family music. If nothing else, it is family that feeds it. All of the musical family names, the Cheniers, the Chavises, the Ardoins, the Dupsies, you name family names, you will find a family of musicians. Mm-hmm. And families, the music gave a platform for a social culture to grow.
Sure.
And that's the underlying story, but also to give recognition to the place this family holds in the development of the whole thing.
Yeah.
They're known of, but the weight maybe hasn't been fully given as to where their place in it was.
Yeah.
Pieces of it, yes, but when you look at the whole thing, it's not just this, it's all of this.
Well, like you pointed out earlier, like with Chubby, you pointed out how he was able to get out on the road.
Right.
And people, they say, well, what's Roy's relation to Chubby, when really Roy was the mentor, and they just don't realize it because Roy wasn't able to go the places that Chubby did.
Chubby was important to the music getting out beyond the borders.
Yes.
He was, Fort Lauderdale used to have a festival. It was always referred to as Jazz Fest Week 3. It was always that first weekend after Jazz Fest.
Okay.
And they looked to Chubby for advice. He had already started getting out that way and traveling and touring. Mm-hmm. And they had ideas for doing a festival, and they told him what they were going to do, and he goes, no. You need to bring in a chef from Louisiana. No. You don't just do it with you need to bring the Louisiana bands out.
Yeah.
And it became an important festival that lasted over a decade, and then the city decided they didn't want to be in promoting music festivals anymore. They had a great blues festival too.
Wow. But
they just stepped back from doing it.
Yeah.
But Chubby had been traveled, and Roy didn't travel. 1988-9, I think, was his first visit to the East Coast. And a guy named Larry Benishevitz, who was a writer, all of his Louisiana writings are part of the archive at Louisiana State, was the first guy to get him to come to the East Coast.
Was a resident out there?
Baltimore. He wrote for the Baltimore Blues Society, but he was one of the first people not from Louisiana to write about the Louisiana musicians outstate.
Well, that's why I was double checking on where you said he was from, because
Baltimore.
That's uncommon.
So he was writing, and he was I safely call him a record nerd in terms of when he was doing his writing, he was writing record release number, this number at this number, and the detail was extensive. So he came down here to Louisiana and just started writing on the musicians, and it was being published in some, I don't know about local, but I know it was always being published in the Baltimore Blues Society newsletter.
Yeah.
And
okay.
The archive is available online, but it is also at Louisiana. But he was the first guy to write about Roy, and then he did it a second time. It's Louisiana music. It's known through communities, but It's still never cracked the popular. You hear it in commercials. When you're watching games and you're seeing all these commercials, you hear a snippet of music. You go, oh, there's some Zydeco going on there. The accordion or the fiddle, whatever. But it's not. More power to the person that wrote it, because hopefully they got residuals coming out of it. That's called sync rights.
Yeah, so many things flash in my mind when you're saying this. I mean, first of all, anybody can take something, repackage it, and sell it, and have it become immensely popular just because of on the laurels of what they did or how far their reach is over the originator of the material. I mean, look at Elvis,
Right.
And then another thing that crosses my mind is that, I mean, we talk about the genre, how it's a very specific region that's generating this, and from that comes rarity, and something that's rare is not going to be able to reach far simply on the fact that it doesn't have much interest or influence or money behind it beyond that region. So it becomes precious and a challenge, all for the same reasons.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, the Southwest Louisiana is a gumbo.
Sure.
It is no one thing. It is everybody is everything. Really, the color lines are blended. The names are blended. The families are blended. But in terms of how the music got developed, you have Lafayette, you have St. Landry, Opelousas, St. Landry. What was happening in the St. Landry, Opelousas region, Mallet, Lawtell, as I said, Church Point was right there on the border where Roy grew up. But their style of the music was different from the area around Lafayette, really.
Okay.
And it was when the first people stumble on it, they're like, wow, this is different. They're grabbing from country, they're grabbing from blues, they're grabbing from all these different things, and it developed its own strength.
Yeah.
And so it's a story of St. Landry Parish, really, but it is the story of Southwest Louisiana Creole.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but you got to find a way to make it happen. So, still looking for money.
Sure. And this has been a long time in the making, man. I dig the strides in, I guess, notoriety, if you want to put it that way, but just publicizing not only the story itself, but your efforts to preserve and present it to a larger crowd,
I've always been, even with the record label, I was always somebody sort of in the background. And trying to, one of the musician friends, Kathy Ponton King, sent me this quote. It said, if you don't toot your own horn, there is no music.
Okay.
And I printed it out, I put it on a wall, so I have to push myself to be in front. It's not a place that comes naturally necessarily.
Yeah.
But I find that I need to do it. And I know some of my friends are sick of hearing me talk about this. But it's something I feel I'm on a mission.
Sure.
And I have to find a way, and I have to keep pitching it. I do have grant applications in. I have hope that somebody will say, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Because after you finish your gathering, you still got the production costs, the mixing, that in itself is not a light expense.
No, I'm sure.
And I have no concept of what it actually is, but generally, when you hear grants, they're in the six-figure range, or the effort to do so is in the six-figure range.
Yeah.
And again, it's just finding the strength. We've gotten the one grant. It allowed us to move things forward and become more visible, get some more interviews, gather more pieces of the story. Need another grant. We had thought of taping this event with multi-camera, but that's not a good use of the money for what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, it'll get captured, maybe with fixed camera and audio off the board, but not, and we'll be running around talking to people and gathering snippets and things like that.
I think the exposure, I mean, that's great that you're going to be able to use it to amass more material, but the exposure in and of itself is an invaluable asset.
Yeah, and it's a crowded weekend.
Okay.
It's the International Festival
Okay.
is going on in Lafayette. So there's a pull of people in that direction. There's another festival, there's another, it's people pulled, and it's a bit frustrating because we know there's musicians that we would like to pull into it, but they're getting a really good paying gig, playing a festival, doing something else.
Sure.
And you can't ask them not to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Other things that have expanded into this besides the genealogy thing, there's Las Pages.
I'm going to have to ask you to spell that now.
Laspache.
Okay.
Las
Thank you.
Pages.
Okay.
They're an organization, a cultural educational organization
Okay.
that teaches the histories, French language, the musics, and there's an organization in Washington, D.C. that I've been connected to or close to ever since they started. They're called Hungry for Music. And their mission statement has been to put instruments in the hands of kids who wouldn't be able to afford them otherwise.
Okay.
They've done projects where they've raised money making CDs that sold, and when you could sell CDs, we'd always, after Roy died, I always talked with him about doing a collection of Roy Carriere material by other people that would be a fundraiser for a Creole project.
Okay.
We talked about it, but right around the time when it finally got to where we thought, now if we can do it, that's when, unless you were a working musician, you weren't selling CDs. So
Yeah.
the CD business was tailing off, so it wasn't a business model anymore.
Yeah.
But we still talked about finding some vehicle where we could do something like it. This event, I've connected Hungry for Music with Las Pages, and there's going to be an instrument drive that lasts the week of the event, where people donate old music instruments.
Yeah.
And they get sort of searched out. The ones that are repairable will get repaired and then passed back on. But he's also bringing his organization is known, they connected to baseball really heavily, where there's a whole series of baseball CDs, nothing but baseball songs.
Wow.
And there's something like, how many, 12 or 13 30-song discs that are all baseball songs.
That's crazy.
And the musicians that are all on there contributed the song. They became fundraisers for his organization. He ended up with a table at things like the World Series or the All-Star Game where he could present, because baseball, got behind it.
Yeah.
So they've become a national organization with chapters in a few cities. This will introduce him to South Louisiana. He's bringing his van full of music instruments that will become, go into hands of kids.
I tell you what, it demonstrates the possibilities, doesn't it? Because that you talk about a niche.
Yeah, and he's a known entity. He's looked to. Music store closes, or some people will. He ends up a kid earning his Boy Scout badge by doing his own instrument drive and gathering instruments for this organization. Feeds into him, and he's got a series of repairmen who will take on the work. So that to me is a real great feel good. That is going to be those press releases should start any time now.
Yeah.
About that part of the event, and. I'm trying to decide whether I make these posters available for sale. I'm getting a hat made. I don't want to compete with a couple of the band members are getting their own t-shirts made. Yeah. And there's only so much money for t-shirts. So if I sell a t-shirt, they're not. So I'll step back out of the way for that. Yeah. And they can knock heads with each other and try to sell t-shirts of their own. Sure. And if I ever get to the point where we're having a premiere at the theater, wherever, I'll have some special piece of clothing made.
I'll look for it. If you and I are meeting every 2 years, as is the case currently, then 2 years from now, it'll be Cannes Film Festival or South to Southwest, one of the two. Someplace. Yeah. It's but a shirt that lists all the names I got you.
As something. I don't know, but I don't want to. Again, I'll just have the hat that says ZBB, Zydeco by birth.
Yeah. Fire off the destinations where your material that's out there now can be found and where people can make donations.
There is a GoFundMe page, Zydeco by birth. There is an Alira fundraising page, which is a 501c3 page that theoretically was supposed to make it easier for businesses to contribute because they need to give to a 501c3.
Sure.
That's where the grant went, which would allow him to do that.
And what address is that?
It's findable when you go to the website. It's called Alira Fundraising, Alira, Allyra.
Okay.
And it's Alira Zydeco by birth, and that's another crowdfunding
tool
avenue, but also a place where somebody who needs that tax deductible endpoint can find it.
Okay.
The event itself, on the Friday night before the Saturday, Dwight Carriere wants to host what he's calling an open Carriere family jam, which would be open to all Carriere family members, and I add anybody who ever played in a Carriere family band.
Okay.
Which there's many. And that will be at the Ambali Center in Opelousas. The next day is the show 1 to 5 at the Ambali Center inside. It's an 800-seat auditorium. And then the next day, the Sunday, is the family reunion at Indian Hills Country Club, which Ambali, the Opelousas tourism people own that now. They've given us the facility on those days to hold these things.
Nice.
And then we've got the traffic happening with the bios being posted, create
the genealogical bios.
For each of the family members who were musicians are being posted one at a time right now. There's been one posted for Bebe and Delan, one to be posted for Warren, which is Roy's father, and nobody's ever seen or heard anything about Warren other than that he was his father. Roy's father, and was the guy who got Roy to start playing.
Gotcha.
But he was the one taking Roy to the house dances, or to the family dances, and so then there'll be let's see if I can name them all, going through them, oldest to youngest. Bebe and Delan, followed by Calvin, Andrew, Goldman, Warren, Roy, then Chubby, Troy, Laura, Dwight. Chubby, Dwight, then there's Ronald and Kevin and Deante, and then there's one in Europe called Jeremy Troy, who left Louisiana at the age of 3. His mother took him to Denmark, where she was from. He has become a musician out in Europe.
That's so funny to me.
And it's a totally different thing.
Sure.
But he's proud of knowing his family roots. And we're going to get him to do a 5-minute talk that we'll show at some point during the thing. But there's a lot of musicians in that family.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And we just then have to get our pieces together, our chronology together, our narrations, and whether it's a narrator or a first-person narration, and then pair it with the video or the image that makes it, gives the story.
Sure.
So
where's John Goodman at? He's always down here somewhere. That guy's a great narrator.
Funny you mentioned that. John Goodman, and I've tried to reach to him.
Yeah.
When James was first putting his story together, John Goodman was somebody he reached out to.
Yeah.
And had expressed a mild interest in the story. Mm-hmm. But then the story went off the rails.
Yeah.
So that was a thought.
I would think that you would have to be kind of nearing completion. With
even just to have a conversation, to be able
them.
to talk to anybody like that.
Yeah.
You have to go through. Now you can't reach directly to people anymore.
No.
You have to go through, sort of, I guess you'd call it a clearinghouse. Then ends you giving you the contact address for the agent or the manager or the you can't find their information without paying the money to join this clearinghouse that then will give you access to somebody you could ask a question of.
Some gatekeepers
a gatekeeper
with their hands out. That's what you need, another person with their hand out.
A gatekeeper that culls the information so that these people aren't overwhelmed by requests.
Yeah, I mean, I get the necessity for it, but it's a bummer on your end,
so but John Goodman was somebody that was of a thought 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But I can't get to him.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. You never know who's out there listening to this right now that might know.
Hey, John, you remember?
Ring that bell for him. The Facebook page, did you mention
there's the
proper name?
Zydeco by Birth Facebook page.
Okay.
There is the Carriere family reunion page that are sort of linked, the posts.
Which one are you updating?
I'm feeding information to both.
Okay.
Robin is writing the bios. She is making the post to the Zydeco by Birth page.
Okay.
She then shares it or connects it to the reunion page.
All right.
There is a Eventbrite page for the event linked into that page, those pages as well.
Okay.
And then there's a .com page that has the Alira fundraising page and the GoFundMe QR codes that you can then get to either of those through there as well.
Good deal. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great, man. Thank you so much for your time.
And my voice held up.